Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Basically, if you can hear me, kindly just let me know by way of a comment. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Sunday and everyone is doing good. It's a bit hot out here. Very, 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 very hot. Kindly, if you can hear me, just by way of a comment, kindly let me know that you can hear me loud and clear and that my volume is all right. It's okay. I'll be very grateful for that. Sorry, just move this a bit forward a bit. Okay, so if you can hear me clearly, just kindly let me know that you can hear me, and then I'll just start. I don't envisage that this is going to be a long Facebook Live. I just wanted to come on here and just say a few words of cautionary advice, and basically just shed light on a few issues of mutual and national interest, I should say, about Gambia. I mean, yesterday I was a bit frustrated and I said I was done. I'm not talking or having any conversation on Gambia. And I had so many messages from different people, people way older than I am, adult people, young people as well, and I've really had a rethink. And I just thought, okay, you know what, maybe we can go on. Maybe I can go on for a while and just see how it goes. But the reason why I wanted to do this short video basically is, one, is to just register my utmost shock and dismay at the released documents by the Ministry of Justice on the sale and disposal of the Jammeh assets. I mean, it really gave me a sleepless night, and quite honestly, I don't even know how such a list could have been made public, could have been released to the Gambian public. I now understand the rationale why the list was never, there was no appetite to publish the list in the first place. And because of public demand and pressure, it was finally released. And there are conversations in some quarters that the list is not even exhaustive, and that some of the contents in the list allegedly have been altered, and that the list does not really reflect the reality of the sale, and that is as it is right now. There are also suggestions that most of the names mentioned on the list are pseudonames, as in they're not real names. They're just aliases, people using other names, or people fronting other individuals, friends, relatives, and stuff to acquire these properties, at very, very cheap giveaway prices. I would dare say some of the sale prices probably just amounted to paperwork costs. That's what it seemed like. I mean, selling a car for $5,000, selling very prized vehicles for 12,000, 11,000, cattle and stuff. You would want to think that this really was just done. These were payments for paperwork, for transactional paperwork, but really it did not reflect the actual price, the actual price of these items. But having said that, I just wanted to offer, hands down commendation to the young people that came out, led by, I'm presuming it was led by Mr. Kuran, Alhaji Kuran. I think that was a brilliant and phenomenal gesture on their part. Coming out, putting country first, and just wanting to get the states to be accountable, to be transparent in dealings of matters of public interest, and I should say also collective interest, because it has been deemed that the wealth acquired by Jammeh was done illegally, and that it is state resources, it is state property, and therefore every Gambian, if that is the case, then every Gambian has a stake in it, because it is part of the national cake. It is a sovereign wealth. It is Gambia's collective interest that, and every Gambian must have a say. So the young people coming out and demanding that this list be made public was nothing done, outside of the remit of the law. This is a bona fide right of every Gambian to request such a list and to see what transactional whatever you call it, undertaking had been made, and on behalf of the Gambian public. And we could tell as soon as this list came out, it has been met with absolute condemnation, absolute shock. People are flabbergasted, dismayed at such blatant disregard for our sovereign wealth, because these were tangible things. These were very prized and luxurious properties that could have gone to our national coffers. These are things that could have aided the reparations process, especially going to victims and alleged victims of the former regime. So, in my mind, I couldn't quite understand why a car would be sold for $5,000. I can't quite understand how very, very, and we all know it's not a hidden secret that Jammeh took good care of his properties. When Jammeh was in power, we know that his cattle were well fed, livestock were taken care of. They had had people who would shepherd his flock, and his cars were all shiny and kept well. And I can't understand. I can't make sense of it. It defies logic. It defies common sense. How within the space of between 2017 when Jammeh left and 2018, 2019 when these properties were disposed of, they were all deemed to be scrap. They were all scrap. I don't quite understand how and when, Jammeh's properties would have just metamorphosed to scrap. Luxury vehicles turned scrap overnight within the space of a year. That is shocking. It's quite shocking. It's quite, it seems to me that that list, aside of the fact that the prices are quite ridiculous, but what is more unfounded, what is more scary, is the fact that these items have been labeled as scrap. Now, what I would expect following this list is that every single item that was sold every single item that was auctioned off would have to have had some sort of a commercial evaluation. You don't sell, and I don't think the government, I don't think any legal entity, either the Ministry of Justice or the Jammeh Commission would sell properties, would sell any single item without first having a commercial value of these items. Every single car, every single item, every single television, every single cattle sold, there has to be a commercial value. There has to be an evaluation of the actual commercial price, the market value of these items before they were sold off. So we're expecting that, yes, the list has been published, but that is not exhaustive. We're expecting that we would see the evaluation certificate, evaluation documents that would accompany these prices, these items that were sold at such ridiculous prices. So, of course, the other issue is that some of these properties were sold to names that people don't know who they are. It looks like pseudonyms. It looks like names that are not real. But of course, we all know, within the remit of the law, that, people who are buying these properties would have national identification documents, and properties bought would be subjected to either capital gains tax or stamp duty tax, and all of these things. These individuals that buy these properties would have to have a TIN number. They would have to pay taxes. Their identification documents are there. It should be intact because these are taxable products. This was a taxable sale. If you buy a property in the Gambia, the buyer would have to pay a stamp duty tax on those properties. I think it's 5% or 15%, whatever it is. And you would need to have a TIN number, and your TIN number, we all know, is attached to your identity. So all of these things would have to come out. So you can't just come out and say, oh, this was bought by Aissatou Touré or Fatou Touré or Fanta Touré or whatever it is. We would have to see a trail. There has to be a seamless trail from selling these properties to re-registering these properties in the name of the actual buyers, to paying of taxes with regards to these things. So it's not going to be that easy. And in the subsequent days and weeks, we're sure that the demand, yes, for the list was just one part. It was just a minute part. But then we also know that the list is not exhaustive, because what was given out, it's being done in a piecemeal manner, where some documents are put up in the public domain. Now, whilst we're waiting for others, we're waiting for the comprehensive report from the commission and all that kind of stuff. But we would have to see these documents, like somebody just rightfully commented, there has to be transfer of ownership. There has to be transfer of ownership. There has to be registration of different deeds and stuff like that. So it would come out. It cannot just be that easy to say that it was bought by one Melville Jones or Mamadou Balde, whatever it is. So it is quite shocking, quite shocking. And for me, like I always say, I'm a person that I don't hold grudges. So if you realize that, you would never see me going out there insulting Batambedu or bashing Batambedu or whatever it is. No, I wouldn't do that. I don't even have time for such things. Batambedu's brother, Sheriff Tambedu, is somebody I know, somebody I have a cordial relationship with, somebody I have phenomenal respect for. There has been allegations and stuff like that have been bandied about, but I am not a person that subscribes to unsubstantiated allegations. So that's on the wayside. So I wouldn't be sitting here insulting. But the truth is, the buck stops with Batambedu, because he was the principal legal advisor to the president, to the state, and he was the chief legal advisor of the government, of the state. He was the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General. And all of these institutions, whether the TRRC, whether the Jammeh commissions and stuff like that, were under his mandate, were under his purview. And I mean, he was quite instrumental in having these commissions set up. Not only that, but it has been shown and proven, and by way of his own pronouncement as well, that some of these appointments were also exclusively done by him. I mean, he handpicked some of these individuals. So no matter how you see it, no matter how it is said and done, in the final analysis, he has a lot to answer. And he definitely has a lot to answer. I mean, yes, one can say that Dauda Jallow is the current Minister of Justice. Yes, he's got files, he's got documentations at his disposal. But really, the buck stops for now at Batambedu in coming out and I mean, not just appearing on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez of West Coast Radio and offering a rebuttal. But these things have to be accompanied with tangible, real-time evidence showing, you know, how these properties were disposed of. How did they conclude? How did they arrive at such ridiculous prices for these items? And then it doesn't only stop at Batambe, it extends to the Jammeh Commission. I mean, the commissioners have a role to play in this. The commissioners, I mean, I see a lot of discourse on social media, and it appears that there's a whole attack, there's a whole you know, denouncement of Batambedu. But what happened to the Jammeh commissioners? I mean, they oversaw some of these sales. I mean, we all heard the expose of what's his name again, Alhaji Kurang, when he talked about how the type of mechanism that he had to put in place, you know, in order to sell some of these items. And I think he did mention, if I'm right, that some of the cattle and other things were sold under his supervision as the then secretary to the commission. But then with all of this that we're seeing, you cannot absolve the commissioners of the Jammeh Commission. They have a case to answer. I mean, they would have to explain to the public. Of course, I'm assuming that this would be reflected in the report that was submitted to the state. And of course, this would be made public. We would see the comprehensive report regarding the findings of the commission, regarding the sale and disposal, regarding the evaluation, commercial market value of these items. All of these things would have to be, you know, to come out in a very comprehensive sort of a report where people can scrutinize, people can study, and people can understand how this all went together, you know, how it was put together and how it all played out. The other question which I am going to ask, because I've been trying to do a lot of research, I've gone back on my notes, I've gone back on my files just to see, look at my archives. I don't know, and maybe a person of the Alhaji Kurang statue would have to give more insight into, because I don't know, was it ever published that there's going to be a public auction on the properties of former President Jammeh? I can't recollect. I can't seem to put my hand on any sort of public notice where it was mentioned that there would be a public auction for these vehicles, these cars, I mean personal effects like television and paintings and all that stuff that we're seeing. You know, I don't think I saw a public auction that took place anywhere in any public square or place in the Gambia. So I really don't know, but this is something I'm asking, I'm throwing to my audience. I can see a lot of people watching and following this live. So if by way of comments, you're aware of any such public announcement that invited people, you know, people of the ordinary Gambian to come and partake and buy, you know, some of these properties, it would be nice to know, because I am not aware. And secondly, which is going to be my final point on this thing, I'll come back, because this live video is not really for that, but I will come back on this issue, you know, subsequently in the week. But the other thing is, which is mind blowing, I can't understand, because I would have thought that I've seen press releases, I've seen statements from both the government and the commission and other interested parties, civil society. I've seen presses and press conferences that were held by the Victim Center, and Everything bordered around the high cost of reparation, and how the government was scrambling around to find money, to find resources, to adequately compensate victims of the Jammeh era on human rights abuses and all that kind of stuff. But what is mind-boggling to me is that the amount, this figure that was realized from the sale of these Jammeh properties and things like that, why did it not go to the victims? What happened? What was the legal regime that took place? How was these funds disposed of? How was it allocated? Who determined what would go to victims and what would go to the state or what would go elsewhere? How was this done? Was this done under the mandate of the commission? Was this done under the auspices of the Ministry of Justice? I mean, was this done under was it a cabinet decision? We don't know all these things. These are things that would have to adequate. There has to be a comprehensive finding on scrutiny on how all of these things were done, because it seems that, to my mind, it's quite shocking that a lot of these funds, these proceeds on all of these properties that they've listed. I mean, it's beautiful for the Ministry of Justice to release this document and then show the vast empire, the vast estate of Jammeh. But then we are not seeing these things in tangible returns. So how has the Gambia benefited? I mean, millions were spent on the Jammeh Commission. I mean, paying remuneration for commissioners. The commission embarked on activities that costed the state millions of taxpayers' money. And then now we're sitting down to look, what is the tangible returns? What can we adequately put down and put a hold on and say these were tangible returns that came out of the Jammeh Commission? So the commission was not a losses to taxpayers, that we were able to recoup. We were able to have this much. We were able to put this much into the kitty. And not only for the state, but also the average Gambian was able to benefit from a sovereign fund. Because these funds, as alleged, as claimed that these are they were not Jammeh properties, I totally don't subscribe to that idea. I do not subscribe to that idea, because I personally believe that as a head of state, for 22 years, there is no way anybody can tell me that Jammeh couldn't have amassed legal wealth. Wealth, I mean, from his salaries, from his earnings, things that he could have earned for himself, things that he could have invested. Yes, you can talk about all the human rights abuses, you can talk about everything, but crying out loud, this was a sitting head of state for 22 years. He earned a salary, he made money, he invested. Nobody can authoritatively convince me, Melville, that this man had nothing. I have written that I call it an absolute and abject fallacy for people to come out and say Jammeh came with nothing and then Jammeh must have left with nothing and Jammeh should live with nothing. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. The figures don't match. It defies logic. It defies any form of mathematical correspondence, and it's just wrong, because regardless of how it is deemed, the guy must have earned money. So yes, there were things that it's not everything that Jammeh owned that absolutely belonged to the state. Because if that is the case, then that could be said for everybody. It could be said that President Barrow shouldn't own anything. He came with nothing. He came with one property is it Old Yundum, New Yundum, or whatever the place is called? So that's what he should have. That this is what he can know. But the guy is earning. The guy is making money. The guy is investing. The guy is probably investing in bonds, in stocks, in other exchanges. So I don't believe that. But going back to my substantive point is that regardless of what it is, I think Gambians need to have an honest conversation. You see, my problem with Gambians is they're very emotional beings. So because you don't like Jammeh, you can't just go out and say that Jammeh couldn't have earned nothing, that for 22 years as a head of state. I mean, even ministers, even civil servants, they're employed 1 year, 2 years, and they could build a house. They could earn per diems. They could earn other sort of of little fringe benefits. They have a salary. So it's ridiculous. Absolutely. It doesn't make sense. It's just a fallacy to say that Jammeh couldn't have owned nothing. That's not true. And the truth is, yes, you can question everything about the atrocities of Jammeh. You can question the human rights abuses. You can raise this up. You can hold it as a flag. But the point is, you cannot also tell me that Jammeh stole every election that saw him in power. Because the Gambian people continue to elect Jammeh. They continue to make him and put their votes for him. So at some point, he derived some sort of legitimacy. So he was at some point a legitimate president. And yes, it's good for us to decry, to denounce. But we also need to understand that not everything about Jammeh could be bad. That is just the reality. Not everything about dictators or whatever we might label them is bad. And that is why there's a continuity in government. Because there has to be some aspect of Jammeh that is good. There has to be. The University of the Gambia, for example, that was Jammeh's brain. This was not something that was inherited from the Jawara era. These were things that were policies of Jammeh. Tangible, real policies that he brought about. When Barrow came into power, he couldn't have just dissolved the University of the Gambia and say this is a Jammeh project. Or let it go and say no, because these are state institutions. Yes, it was occasioned, it was supervised, it was influenced, it came about through the policy of Jammeh at the time. But these are state institutions. These are part of the state architecture, you know. And this has to be emphasized. So there has to be continuity. So that said, I think that all that was spent towards the Jammeh Commission, that the Gambian, the average Gambian, the average taxpayer has to be able to sit down and say, you know what, there are tangible returns from the Jammeh Commission. We were able to have accountability. Everything is transparent before our very eyes. And then the average Gambian is able to feel, and that is my point. The average Gambian is able to feel the effect of going after the properties of Jammeh, selling them, because this should go towards the sovereign wealth, where you and I, my kids, your kids, my mom, your dad, your uncle, your relatives living in Gambia and maybe outside Gambia can feel that, you know what, all of this was set to be part of the state. It belonged to the state. Now we have a new government. They have gone after Jammeh and they have recouped, and we are benefiting from it. For me, it makes no sense. It defies logic that you can set up a commission, you can make so much money from the proceeds of Jammeh, but then it settles among a few, a selected few. Then what was the need for the commission in the first instance? Why was there a commission? Was it because Gambians just wanted to have a soap opera to watch on television, to see state lawyers, to see commissioners going after Jammeh, exposing people? Was that the rationale? Is the commission not because we wanted some sort of accountability? Was the commission not because we wanted to recoup what belonged to the state, what belonged to you and I, that had gone into the coffers of one man? That I believe was the overall objective. That was the overall objective. That we were going after these millions, we were going after these billions of dollars because we wanted to put it into the coffers of the Gambia, into our sovereign national wealth, so that the average Gambian, regardless of color, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of political affiliation, would be able to benefit and see tangible returns. But I'm sorry, it makes no sense. It defies logic that you can go after Jammeh, you can recoup so much, but the average Gambian is still struggling. You still go to the hospitals and don't have basic amenities. You still go to the hospital and don't have gloves. You still go to the hospital and don't have paracetamol. The farmers are still crying out for fertilizers. How then can you tell me that the Jammeh Commission was successful when there's going to be only 50 Gambians who benefited from the vast estate, from the vast resources that was deemed to be Jammeh's that belonged originally to the state. So yes, I see a lot of people going about the Jammeh Commission, but people are not asking the very important questions as to how have we benefited? How has the average Gambian benefited? What from that proceeds went into a social and national project for Gambians? So at the end of the day, what was the need for setting up the Jammeh Commission when it would only benefit a selected special few? But like I said, that's a conversation for another day. I'll come back to the issue of the Jammeh Commission, the sale. I'm still studying the list. I'm still waiting because it's not a comprehensive list. So you can't just really study that list and then make an objective conclusion as to how the sale went. It's not exhaustive. And you need certain things. You need to, for me, the first thing that needs to be done is how were these properties documented? How were they documented? That's what we need to know. Are we certain that everything that is on that list is really what belonged to Jammeh? Are we sure that there were no other properties, there were no other luxury cars or other properties that belonged to Jammeh that never appeared on that list? Because this is Gambia, people talk. And we all know that from the initial state, people have been saying that Jammeh's properties were even looted during the political impasse. During the political impasse, even the period before the Jammeh Commission was mandated and set up, that people had done away with some of these properties. So how are we sure that even this list is comprehensive? So that is a conversation for another day. Now, the main reason why I said I was going to do a Facebook Live was regarding the pronouncement of Mr. Babukar Bob Keita. Okay, so before I go to Bob Keita, I just got a very funny message from Mene Frida Gomez, and she said to me, I have not mentioned about the pigs. So yes, I was told, we have been informed that Jammeh had a herd of pigs. I mean, loads and loads of them. But this was not reflected in the list that we saw. And I know Gambia is a 95% population Muslims. And I can tell you that the 5% Christian, I have spoken to some members of the Christian Council, don't know. And there was never been a time where the state had offered or contacted the Christian Council to supervise the sale of all these pigs, the herd of swine that belonged to President Jammeh. So really, in as much as we are asking for everything else, like I said, it has to be a holistic account of everything. So we need to know. We need to know where the pigs are. You know, have they been done? Have they been grilled? Are they still roaming? What happened to them? We would need to know. So we will have to ask the relevant question at some point in time. But I just thought I should bring that. That was so funny. You know, I can't stop laughing. But yeah. But listen, so I've seen this guy. I just want to address this because I'm a person, I don't like to let things go off. So Ibrahim Amane, I've seen all of your comments and stuff like that. But, you know, I would say something. I would just tell you this. You see, I don't know how much you know me or what you know about me or how little you know about me. But really, I don't really care about people making ridiculous assumptions because those things don't bother me. I'm very thick-skinned, and as long as my conscience is clear, I'm not bothered about all these semantics and all these little stuff. I don't deal with small people. So this is my Facebook. This is my life. I'm a grown-ass man. I can speak on issues that have got national interest. That is before the public. It was put in the public domain. I don't owe anyone or anybody an explanation as to what I do. You are on social media. You've got a Facebook. I'm sure you have a following. Take your ideology, take your understanding of issues, onto your page and deal with it there. Deal with it there. Speak on what you want to speak, but you cannot dictate to me what I talk about. You cannot streamline the things I would say. And if I decide to talk about this issue, I will speak on it. It is the right of people to listen. It is the right of people to discard what I say. I don't force my pronouncement. I don't force my ideas on anyone, but I will speak my mind. And I'll tell you this, I mean, if you continue disrespecting or putting out ridiculous messages, I'll block you. That's what I do. My mental health is very important to me. I'll block you. I'll never see you again. You stay in your lane. I'll stay in my lane. But if you come here and you want to talk about anything, you don't tell me what I should talk about or what I should not talk about. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, trust me, I don't even want to be rude. So I'll just keep it that way. But let me continue and say the reason why I'm doing this Facebook Live is because I want to talk about the pronouncements of Bob Keita, and that is what I'm going to talk about. If it bothers anyone, all you need to do is just check out of this live right now. But I will speak on it. I will speak. I'm not going to insult. I don't insult people. I'm not going to cuss out. I'll speak on it. I'll talk about my understanding of things. And if anybody has an issue with it, all you got to do is just check out of this live and save your mental health like I would do. So, I have always said, and I still maintain, that when it comes to Project Gambia, it is not about an individual. When it comes to Project Gambia, it cannot be about one person. And I believe that any individual, be it a person from civil society, a person from the state, a person from the activist world, it cannot just be about you. Now, what we saw a few days ago was unprecedented in Gambia's history. Full stop. I mean, I'll tell you this for sure. It's not every single person that embarked on that journey that I subscribe to everything they do. I have disagreed with them publicly. I have spoke my mind against anything they have done. Anything. But what I could also recognize is the fact that when they collectively took on that project, it was a project that was cemented on prosperity, progress of the Gambia. It was a project that was beneficial to me and you, to my generation yet unborn, to every single person in Gambia, regardless of class, regardless of political affiliation. So I had to support a project that I believe was Project Gambia. It was not about any individual. It was not about Alaji Kurang. It was not about Bob Keita. It was not about Kek Sane. It was not about Aliuba or anyone. These are individuals that I have collectively and publicly had my own disagreement with. But when I see them embark on a project that I believe was worthwhile, I had to support because that's the right thing to do. Because this was about Gambia. It was about a collective effort. And I don't subscribe, I don't believe that any single individual should come up and try to steal the show. I don't care if that person is my friend. I don't care if that person is my brother, sister, mother, father. You cannot be a clout chaser to the extent that you want to change a brand Gambia issue to a personal, individualistic issue. You cannot. Now, two things are at play. And as I have written and as I have said, I was not there when this conversation took place. So I cannot say that Bob Keita categorically is lying. I cannot also say that categorically that Bob Keita is saying the truth. I can't do that because I was not present. I was not there. However, this is the issue. When Bob Keita decided to come out and make a pronouncement that has a bearing on the holder of the highest office of the land, be it the president, it became a national subject. It became a national subject. where I as an individual, I as a Gambian should be able to add my voice, should be able to analyze, should be able to scrutinize, should be able to look at it from whatever lens, whatever angle, be it objectively, be it from a bias or individualistic manner. I was able to look at this because it has been brought into the public domain. Now, the whole project was about Gala. The whole project was about Gala. Now, I have a personal issue with the rationale why at that particular moment, when the entire Gambia collectively was standing with a unified voice, supporting these brave men and women that dared the state, that dared to stand and say, you know what, we have a constitutional right to assembly. We have a constitutional right to protest peacefully, and we are not going to ask for a permit. Yes, we did. We did because that is the requirement. We followed the requirement. We followed the law. But if the law is trying to prevent us from what has already been granted to us by the Constitution, which is the ground norm of the land, we are going out. And every single Gambia celebrated these individuals. I saw a lot of people sending me message telling me, but why are these prominent NPP members not saying anything? Why are they not, coming out? I said, you know what? I said, maybe their positions does not allow them to say anything. I said, but their silence could say a lot of things. It is telling you that they are in support of what these young people are doing. And what was very crystal clear, what was evident, is that these individuals came from every single political entity in the country. There were people from Gala who were UDP members. There were people from Gala that were from NPP. There were people from Gala that were from every single political entity. There were people from Gala that were Mandinka, Wolof, Sarahule, Fula. There were people that were Christians and Muslims. It was a national collective venture. The brand was Gambia. The brand was unity. The brand was collectivity. The brand was everything Gambia. The brand was for accountability, for transparency. That was the brand. It was not about one man. And I have an issue that Bob Keita would come out on such a day when the entire nation was celebrating these young men who did not only defy the odds, but they maintained the peace. They maintained decorum throughout. And suddenly, you decided to put up on your Facebook a post that seek to take attention away from these brave men collectively to shine an individual light on yourself. I don't buy the idea that it was a mistake. It was not a mistake. It was calculated. It was deliberate. It was strategic. It was strategic. And whoever is advising you is a person that does not like you. Whoever is advising you is a person that is actually orchestrating your downfall. Because the thing is, Bob Keita in itself is not special. Bob Keita in itself is not unique than any other Gambian. You don't have anything that the average Gambian does not have. Your singular uniqueness, your publicity and brand that you have is because Gambians, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of political affiliation, irrespective of creed, they came out to stand for you. When the very state apparatus would have been finished with you and you would have been history. It's not about you as an individual, Bob. It is not about you as an individual. It is about every Gambian that decided that they saw an injustice being meted about you and they stood for you. They were ready to sacrifice their lives for you. It was never about Bob. It was never because Bob Keita is special. It was because they saw a collective injustice that every Gambian wanted to speak about. That every Gambian with a conscience saw that the state was suppressing your rights. And they came out to defend you. That is what it is. You're not famous because you invented something in Gambia. You're not famous because you started a revolution in Gambia. You're not famous because you're the architect of an institution in Gambia. You're not famous because you have done phenomenal landmark projects in Gambia. No, you are famous because Gambians through you collectively saw that an injustice was being meted against an individual that the average Gambian believed to be innocent, or some people feel you're guilty. Regardless of what it is, what was paramount is that every single Gambian believed that an injustice was being meted against you, and they stood up to fight for you. But it is not about Bob Keita. It can never be about Bob Keita. It's about a Project Gambia. It's about the individualistic and uniqueness of Gambians who believe that the average Gambian should not be suppressed. Now, if anybody is making you or turning you into a public ridicule, that you go to the point where you believe that it is about you, where you begin to believe that you have the clout, that you believe that this is you because you're special, you're unique, I'm telling you, a rude awakening awaits you, because it is not about you. It's about people that believe in the injustice that was occasioned against you. This is a collective project. This is a project where even if what you said is accurate, even if what you said is true, you should never have come out to make such a pronouncement at a time when the entire nation, both in and out of the Gambia, was focused on the Gala team. You should have allowed them to fester. You should have allowed them to enjoy the moment. You should have allowed Gambians to collectively register a monumental change that breathed through the land of Gambia. It was your responsibility as a member of Gala. It was your responsibility to ensure that brand Gala was shining all the way to the top. It was not about you. It was not about you. And I'm sorry, I really don't care if people are going to say anything about me. It doesn't bother me. But I do not believe that your follow-up post to say that the timing was wrong is genuine. I believe it is because collectively Gambians have condemned your action that you have decided to steal the show from the members of Gala, and you were pushed to make that statement. And I believe you're not being advised well. That was not a smart move. It does not show strategy. It does not show smartness. And it does not show that you're well prepared for whatever it is that you want to embark on. Now, the second thing is, when you made that pronouncement, you said that you tried to go back to companies, to places where the president was, so that you can insult the president back. You can say to him what you wanted to say. I mean, I really had to read that again, because for me that was all I saw, and I started to wonder whether you were on Kush. I started thinking where you were smoking a different brand of weed. You're talking about the president of the Republic of the Gambia. You're talking about the commander of the Gambian National Army. And you're telling me that you are trying to go into a Congress to insult him, to tell him, man, you must be ludicrous. I mean, I don't know what has gotten into you, but you must be totally and abjectly mental to even think such. So for me, that particular statement was dishonest. I don't believe in that statement, and nobody's going to force me to believe in that statement. You can insult me all you want. You can say about me whatever you want. It does not put food on the table. It does not change the fact that tomorrow I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to have a beautiful meal, I'm going to drink, I'm going to sleep. It does not do nada to me. But the fact is, that statement is a lie. You never was going to go to any Congress and insult President Barrow. That was a blatant lie. It's a lie, and anybody that wants to believe it, that is their problem. Anybody that wants to subscribe to it, that's their business. But that's a blatant lie, because your common sense, your faculties would not allow you to even think such. You go to State House to confront the president and insult the president? That is a lie. That was not why you went there. That was not why you went there. And to even go further, It's a psychological thing, because if you do a bit of psychology and you understand your psychoanalysis that came out in your writing, one can tell that it made no sense that not only did you say that, but you also said that people were blaming you for attending the Congress, but they did not know why you attended the Congress. So what it does, I mean, if anybody knows, if you study, there's a guy called Sigmund Freud, and if you look into his writing, what you tried to do was to justify, but because you know this is out there, you know that you have been bashed for going into that Congress after everything is said and done, and you're still desperately trying to brand yourself in such a way that you can justify the rationale, the reason for going to that Congress, and now to tell the unsuspecting Gambians, to tell people that you believe have no mental faculty, they lack thinking capacity, to tell them that, oh no, don't be mad at me, I only went there because the president insulted me, I wanted to insult him back. How stupid, how callous, how nonsensical. Yeah, the average Gambians will tell you what you want to hear. I don't care, that's their business. They have a right to tell you what you want to hear. But I'll tell you something, in this life, just find that one person that will not tell you what you want to hear. Find that one person that will tell you the gospel truth, that will put it to you the way it was. Because definitely that is false. I don't believe it. There's nobody that's ever going to make me believe it. That was not your reason for wanting to be in the company of the president. That is not true. The third point, you have made a statement, but in your statement, you did not mention that that call was facilitated by the Commissioner General of the GRA. You never made mention of that. And for me, when you're doing a narration, that was crucial, that was key. Because that not only cements and lays the foundation, it gives it context. It gives it context. Because you could have said that my in-law facilitated the call. Or you could have said somebody of great political standing facilitated the call between myself and the president. But you never said that. When anybody read that presser or that statement from you, it's as if the president reached out to you. The president made a call to you. That's what it came across as. But then, now you're between the devil and the deep blue sea. Because the Commissioner General in a court of law is a man of high standing. You can say whatever it is. Anybody can write and say the GRA is corrupt, that he's doing this, he's doing that. That is by the wayside. That is by the wayside. But what is most important is the fact that you would go into a court of law and this man who occasioned the call will look into your eyes and tell you that what you said is a lie. So what happens, Bob Keita, is that you have the Commissioner General that occasioned that call looking into your face, telling the court that you lied. You have the president of the Gambia, who you're trying to bring disrepute to his name, to his office, telling you that you lied. So it is you against them. It is your word against them. And except you have real, tangible proof, you have a recording of that call where you can prove that whatever you said happened, whatever you say will amount to a lie, regardless if it happened or not. And the other issue is, the mistake and harm was already done. The fact that you came out and then decided to say that you are not a liar, what you have done is to further compound things, because what you're saying now is you're not only saying that the president is a liar, you're also saying the Commissioner General of the GRA is a liar. That's what you've done. And forgetting the fact that I don't know who advised you, but whoever is advising you is somebody that you need to fire right now. Because your advisors are equally dumb, because that is not a right thing to do. Because you have said it, this is your in-law. This is your wife's brother. This is a person that commands so much respect and commands a lot of, or has a good standing in the society. This is the Commissioner General of the entire GRA. This is a man who, out of the abundance of his heart, was trying to facilitate. You could tell that this man has accepted you into his family and trying to get you to be in one accord with the president. Listen, Bob, it is a privilege to speak to the head of state of the Gambia. It is a privilege to speak to the head of state of any country, regardless of whatever anybody will tell you. Don't listen to the people that will tell you, oh, the president is a servant of the people, the president is this. It's all lies. Because if they become president, yes, the president is the servant of the people substantively, but in real hard fact, the president is the president. He commands respect. He commands dignity. You see, the difference between me is, and that's why people are confused, because when I defend the president, they'll tell me I am NPP. When I defend Dabo, they will tell me I'm UDP. When I go out and I speak on SFR, they'll tell me now you're starting to join SFR. Because for me, it's not about these individuals. It's just about the way and manner. It doesn't mean because I am opposing Barrow or I am opposing Dabo that if somebody says something about Dabo that my mind, my judgment, I believe it's a blatant lie, I should subscribe to it. I see a lot of people telling you that they believe you, that they believe that is what the president said to you. But these are people who are political opponents of the president. These are people that don't even have, most of them don't even have brains. Most of them are not educated past their high school certificate. Most of them have not traveled. They have not experienced life. They don't know what the world is about. They don't understand governance. They don't understand issues of international relations, of state and state relations. You're making such pronouncements talking about a sitting prime minister, saying that the president, a sitting president, is saying that a sitting prime minister would never have been prime minister. You don't understand the ramifications of that. And that is because your knowledge, your technical expertise, your technical thought, rather, does not go beyond your own understanding of things. Because if anybody was to advise you credibly, they would tell you you cannot. You cannot make such pronouncement. And the sad thing is, in making those pronouncements, you were clandestinely trying to link yourself, trying to brand yourself as if you are the equivalent of the Ousmane Sonko of Senegal to Gambia. That is what you tried to do. So, I don't understand how you can circumvent these things. Because the truth is, except there's going to be some intervention, the president of the Gambia, knowing that whatever you have said has gone far and near, is going to take action. He's definitely going to take action. Because if he doesn't, it would appear that, you know, what you said is true, that the GRA commissioner is lying. All right? That is what will happen. But what you have said is something that can even put the security of this country at risk. What you have done, the pronouncement you made on Ousmane Sonko, that the sitting head of the state of the Gambia has said that Ousmane Sonko is rude. Ousmane Sonko would never be president. Ousmane Sonko would never be this. Of a sitting prime minister, you are knowledgeable. You know that Ousmane Sonko is now the prime minister. Why wait till now? What is the rationale for coming out with this now? You can set the relationship between the Gambia and Senegal ablaze. Because what people don't understand, yes, it's a state-to-state relation, but the person behind this office is a human being. Barrow is a human being. He has feelings. He has blood running through his veins. Ousmane Sonko is a human being. Yes, they occupied offices. They occupied high offices. But Mitlang, they have feelings. They have feelings. And you need to temper down. You need to know that this is not about Bob Keita. You need to absolutely temper down. I have always said it and I will continue to say it. There's nothing phenomenal about Bob Keita. You're a normal human being like I am a normal human being and the other average Gambian is a normal human being. It is. There's nothing special about you. When Gambians came out, and I will repeat, it was not about you. You think it was about you that I sat down from morning till night, not even going to work, doing Facebook Live, talking about the law, talking about court proceedings, attacking anybody that was trying to occasion an injustice from the state law office to judges. You think it was about you? No, boy, it was not about you. It was the fact that I saw an injustice that done to you can be done to me. It can be done to my relative, my child, my friend. That is what Gambians saw. That is what Gambians saw. Even if that is what President Barrow said, and that's my point. Even if that's what President Barrow said, You had no business to repeat such privileged conversation with the sitting head of state in the public domain. Who is advising you? Who is advising you? If you had any political ambition, you need to really sit and think about it again. I've always said, yes, to have a political ambition is one, but you need to develop yourself. Go get yourself grounded. Get yourself basic education. Get yourself basic civic understanding and knowledge. Understand the apparatus of governance. Understand the architecture of governance. Understand the correlation between state. And then you come back and tell us that you want to run for president, or you tell us that you've got political ambition. You can't claim to have political ambition when you don't understand state relations, when you're not measured, when you can come out and divulge such high privilege conversation. You can't. And if anybody is supporting you, tell them that, Melville, I'm saying that they are dishonest. You cannot dislike Barrow to a point that you cannot tell Bob Keita the truth. You cannot dislike Barrow to a point that you cannot tell Bob Keita the truth. Bob Keita, what you have done is not only wrong, it is a blatant disregard for the office of the president. It is. But anyways, I will say one thing. You see, a lot of people don't even, they don't quite even understand me most of the time because they don't know where I come from. But I'll tell you this for sure. You see, for those that know, maybe not everybody knows, but for those that know, in the hierarchy of the foreign ministry, I was DPS of the foreign ministry. Technically, that means I was second in command within the technical hierarchy of the foreign ministry. Do you know how many state secrets? Do you know how many state documents? Do you know how many privileged communications that have come through me? Do you know how many files I have seen? Do you know how many documents pass through me? State matters that go through the foreign ministry that have come through my hands. Do you know how many sitting state ministers I talk to? I have a relationship with. I converse with. Do you know? But let me tell you, at a time when it was the very state that was assisting, or I could say, aiding people going against me. When I had things that I could use against individuals, but no, I kept my mouth shut. Do you know how many speeches I have written that I have sat in public gathering where the president have read it, and they are my words, they are my research. But then I wouldn't sit there and say, oh, Manmako Bindal, the president. Oh, I wrote it for him. Oh, that's my speech. Oh, that's my writing. That's my talking point. That's not how it works. Because the moment the president reads it, it is his. Those are his words. The moment he endorses it. You know how many speeches I've written for Lawyer Dabo to read? At the end of the day, when people say stuff, they would come and say, oh, it's Lawyer Dabo that said this. Those are his words. Because that's how governance works. That's how every single head of state you see, from Barack Obama to anybody, they have speechwriters. You go through things. I have seen people that have said nasty things about me, writing things about me on social media that I know the worst things about, that I can make one sentence about them on social media and they are finished for life. For life. But it is called ethics. A person, you have to have some sort of sutura. A person, you should be able to look to something. You should have been able to say, if it was not for my wife's brother, if it was not for my wife's brother, I would have done this and this and this. When I had an issue, because I saw a privileged picture, a picture I took with the first lady, that I didn't want to go out on social media. Because I'm not a person, I don't owe anybody anything to brag that, oh, I met the first lady, or she's my friend, or we hang out, or we ate together. No, I don't have to prove it to anybody. I know who I am. I don't have to go out there. And when I share this with a person, And I got upset. I came out. I didn't come out and say, okay, you know what? Nene Frida has said this to me, and I came out and said, Nene, you said this, Nene, you said that, or Nene, you told me this. No, I didn't do that. I could have done that. I could have done that. But I would never do that in my life. I would never do that. And if you go and ask Nene wherever she is, she will tell you that Mel will never do that until he goes to his grave. Never. I would never do that until I go to my grave. Because you can disagree. You always have to look at something. You always have to say, okay, you know what? If it wasn't for my brother-in-law, I would have done this and this. Bob, I've always said this. I've always said this, and I told you this, and I'm going to say it out publicly. I told you. At a time when even me, I questioned that act. When the president sent a delegation to the house of Sena Mumbai, there was not a big man in the NPP party that did not sit there. These people were humiliated. Their pictures were put on social media. They were called names. They were still every kind of thing. No matter what happens between you and the president, you should look to that day, look to that moment when these people set their offices aside, set their ethics aside, set everything aside, and they wanted to broker peace between you and Sena Mumbai at a time when it was difficult for you. That is what you should have looked at. You should be the last person. I don't care what anybody says about Barrow when it comes to politics. That's their business. We all have our thoughts on Barrow. We all have our thoughts on the state. But you look to one thing. You look to one thing. That this man sent a delegation. A high-powered delegation. At a time when a criminal matter was before you. A criminal matter was hanging on your head. They didn't look at anything. They said, you know what, we will go. We will go to broker peace. That's what you should look at, Bob. That's what you should look at. You should be the last human being to try to bring disrepute to Barrow. I don't care what anybody says about Barrow. You think the state of Gambia did not do things to me that I'm offended at? You think so? You think I did not feel that the state of Gambia was not fair to me? You think I did not feel that they treated me unfairly, that my rights were trampled upon? You think I don't think so or I don't feel so? But you have to be able to look at something. You have to be able to say, Sunekuton Ki, Sunekuton Kale, Dina Defli. You have to be able to say, if it wasn't for my wife, if it wasn't for my brother-in-law, if it wasn't for the fact that these people, grown men, Lamin Cham, what's his name, Dembo by force, these people made a delegation. They went to Sena Mumbai's house to talk, to bring peace. To bring peace. No matter what Barrow does to you today, you should think about yesterday. You should think about that time that the man put his office on the line. You know how much Barrow was insulted for that? You know how much they said that they were manipulating, they were siding by you? The people that you're dining with right now were the very same one that was calling those people out. The same activists that you're dining out with were the people that was insulting Dembo by force, insulting Lamin Chan, insulting all these people for going to Senabu's house to stand by you. You should be the last person to talk about Barrow. And I'm telling you today, if you, like you said, you're writing a book, whether you're the one writing it, whether they're writing it on your behalf, I will tell you, go and edit that part on that book and take it off and live your life the way you're living it. If you have a political ambition, work towards it in the right and proper manner. Develop yourself, educate yourself, solidify yourself before you come out and start chasing cloud, believing in false promises. Because I tell you, and I'm telling you this, the same Gambians that you saw rallied behind you because an injustice was being meted against you. Don't expect that you will see those same Gambians standing behind you in a court of law when Barrow drags you to court for defamation and libel. Don't expect it, because it will never happen. I will tell you, it will never happen in a million years. But anyways, they said a word to the wise is quite sufficient. You need to mellow down, measure yourself up. You can call me anything, label me as your enemy or whatever it is. to be honest, you know, I really don't care. But the truth is, I've said this. And because it was brought into the public domain, I was not going to address this in a private manner. I was going to address it publicly because I think it is high time the people that genuinely care about you call you out publicly and tell you exactly what it is that you're doing wrong, and for you to understand that there's nothing special, there's nothing different about you. You're an ordinary, normal guy. And the people that stood and led their lives, put their resources towards seeing you today, were people that genuinely believe that an injustice was being occasioned against you. And they stood up for you. So always remember, it is not about you. It is not about anything that's special about you. But it is about a collective, unified effort. And today, I think it is a shame that the momentum of Gala, the momentum, the national momentum, where every single individual, regardless of wherever they came from, was praising these individuals, their bravery, and suddenly you took the spotlight away from them. You took the spotlight because that's what it is about. Chasing clout. Clout that is just an illusion of grandeur, because it is not real. It is not real. Anyways, guys, like I said, I'll come back another time, and definitely I am going to talk about the Jammeh, the list, the Jammeh asset sales. I'm doing my research. I'm going to try to get as much information on this as possible, and I will do another Facebook Live another time. I thank you guys for joining me. That's all I had to say, and I wish you guys all the best. Goodbye. Sorry if I offended anyone. My absolute apology.